can food really heal your body? Spoiler alert, yes.
Yes, but there is actually some controversy around is food medicine?
Oh, see, I believe it is. But I'm interested to know.
Yeah, well, certainly, I guess what we're going to cover today is there are certain things we should be eating that absolutely affect more than just kind of our, healthy eating to keep you slim, etc. That can have really impactful effects on our brain, on our mental health, on our well-being. But then some sort of medics and scientists do argue that the idea that we suggest food is medicine is a slippery slope. Because, for example, people who have...
sliding down there, Sophie. I feel we got the controversy coming on it.
I'm going straight in for the controversy, aren't I? So it's just the idea of medicine, because what it is some people, for example, who've got cancer kind of think, well, instead of having chemotherapy, I think like Steve Jobs did this, I will use food as medicine. And actually, although there are many things food can do, it does have limitations too. So it doesn't mean that you should use it instead of traditional prescribed medication, especially if you have serious health problems. But it just means that if you want to improve your health or avoid things or kind of help with depression, things like that, then there's certainly...
You see, I've got kind of, not a different perspective because I'm nowhere a doctor. But did you know I started to do a naturopath course?
No.
I've never told you this.
No.
So it is the study of food. But I mean, I've not finished it. So again, like what I'm saying is not based on facts. But from everything that we understood, like when you have an alkaline state, that's the face again every time I talk about stuff, Soph does this face. It's like, I'm going to listen again. And then I get all nervous and shy. Okay, so own it, Jess, again. So when I started to do my homeopathic course or naturopathic course, we learned all about foods and stuff like that. And then also I've had a friend, Sophie, she actually had cancer, but and again, this is not for everyone because I do genuinely believe we should always listen to, oh my God, I need to scrap this. Let me start again. I'm getting so nervous talking about it. Okay, so I think with anything to do with disease, to do with malfunction in the body, we always have to listen to advice that resonates with ourselves, if that makes sense. And also, your face again.
I'm listening. I'm open.
Okay, it's because I know you're a GP. And we have different
That's
ideas from it.
Because people listening will have different views.
I just need to own it. Okay, right. So
Come on, Jess, you got this.
Okay. So I genuinely believe that we can completely heal our bodies through mind, through food, through creating the perfect homeostasis. I can't even pronounce the damn word. I'm trying to get it out. By producing the right environment. So I genuinely believe that. And again, this is from things that I've experienced and seen within the community, from like documentaries I've read, books. But again, I haven't gone into the science of it. So I can't say scientifically this is proven. But when we have an alkaline, I can't pronounce the word. I'm getting so
alkaline.
Thank you. Come here. Stay. The body, like disease, can't live in the body. So things like food, things like drinking distilled water without trace minerals in, and creating that perfect environment for our body, disease can't thrive there. So and again, like open for debate. I'm so scared.
I guess. Do you know what's interesting?
Go on.
Since we've done this podcast, we usually meet in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm not coming to meet you here.
Oh, girl, this is good. This is a healthy debate, though.
I'm absolutely not coming to meet you here.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an alkaline state. We have a homeostasis, we have a pH that has to be very restricted. If that pH goes out of kilter,
or
if
maybe
your
that's
pH
what I'm
is out
talking
of
about.
kilter. No, but that's like an emergency. You're in hospital.
Yeah.
Like the body has its own homeostasis. And so when people think like, oh, I'll drink alkaline water in the morning, it doesn't matter you drink alkaline water.
Not kind of
your hydrochloric acid will soon turn that. But it's this kind of Gwyneth Paltrow. Some of it I think is quite dangerous because this is what people do. People do die because they've chosen this route. I've had two friends who did try, who both had cancer and went off to do shamanic stuff in the States and it didn't work. He died. Another one, she was a yoga teacher. She was all into this and she tried everything. And I also feel it's slightly dangerous because it also suggests some level of blame. So if that person does die, was it their fault they weren't trying hard enough to drink?
No, so I disagree. I don't think there's any blame in anything. But
this is the meatiest we've ever got.
I feel like I'm going to get cancelled, but I'm going to say it. So number one, I definitely do not think there's any blame. But also as well, just from the stuff that we've done within belief coding, a lot of we've had people who've had, see now I feel like I have to just own it. So we have had people who have gone through cancer, and I feel like I know I just need to say it, but I feel scared to say it because it's a big
It is
claim.
juicy. It's a juicy old topic. I mean, I guess what's truthful is, I guess people can obviously choose whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And if they want to try all those things, then that's up to them. I guess my medical perspective would be also listen to your doctor.
So this is it. Yeah. So I agree there. So I'm not disagreeing there. I do agree. I think you need to listen to your doctor. You need to do your own research. You need to have a look to see what is the best route for you. But when we talk about blaming stuff, so when we do belief coding and we've had people who've had cancer and are now cancer free, and this is no blame, right? In the sense of our subconscious, and again, this is, I feel scared to touch it, just take it now. So our subconscious will literally produce an environment within our body to avoid us from feeling emotional pain. So for example, we've had people who have had cancer, but when you go deeper into it, their environment is they've suppressed a lot of anger, they're in toxic environments. So it's the body's way of shutting down to escape that situation. But for me, I don't see that as blame. I see that as we don't run our subconscious. Our subconscious is a literal part of us that takes on the experience, which creates feelings, which then creates environments within our body, in our circumstance, in our environment.
Okay. I mean, the cancer is such a broad term, actually. Yeah. And we know from a physiological point of view, it's the cells are not. There's lots of reasons. And actually, lifestyle is a huge cause for many, many cancers now.
Yeah.
Obesity is a major cause of cancer. The stress as well that we're all living with. So actually our modern lifestyles aren't conducive to kind of living this. Mind you, we've always been, I guess the people in Victorian times were like, they were pretty stressed.
Well, no, but if you think about it, like if you look at the Victorian times, they may have been stressed, but actually if you look at our environment, like things like, Wi-Fi, technology, too much EMFs can actually cause distress on the blood system and the body.
Maybe.
Wow, this is going to be a really interesting one. Well, I think we're only about 8 minutes into.
Hey, this is good. We wanted some meaty topics.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what's interesting? Actually, I think as well, we actually once said we won't talk about cancer because it's a touchy subject.
We say that?
Yeah, we did.
I was like,
okay.
I just brought it in there. Sorry.
Well, no, but I think this is the thing as well, right? So I know our viewers, there will be both sides of the fence. So actually, I think your perspective and my perspective, it gives a fresh perspective and a new perspective, which will hopefully encourage both sides to go off and do further research.
Yeah. What I would say about doing research is, what is the basis of where are you getting your research from? What's their
originate? Yeah,
background.
So who are they funded by?
There's plenty of YouTube videos that you can find from people.
Yeah.
But what is their background? So just be cautious, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. What's the next?
Good news is, so is food medicine? I'm not sure.
No, but going back to that. So I think if we look at the body as a whole, and we'll take cancer out of the equation now, and if we look at it as a whole, the stuff that we put in our body literally fuels the cells, like it fuels everything. To me, it makes sense that actually if we're feeding our body with junk, we're going to feel crap. If we're eating lots of processed food, it's harder for our body to break down that process because it's not a natural state.
Yeah, and in fact, we started to talk about this in another episode, and we kind of capped it, didn't we? We said, let us know if you want to hear a bit more about kind of nutrition stuff. So, which is why we're coming back to it today, because people are like, we want to hear more. So, everything. I mean, I have a diploma in lifestyle medicine, which is very much focused on nutrition. I have a kind of very much an interest in nutrition, especially obesity management, actually.
I love this. Whereas I'm like, I started this naturopath course. I got a year into it and then COVID hit, so I stopped it.
But you're always, but like we discussed in the previous episode, you're always learning, you're always reading. So you have a knowledge base way beyond your part.
Well, do you know what's interesting actually? Every time something drops in. So every time something drops into my mind to go off and learn, I feel like I'm being led spiritually on a path to learn certain things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, follow that.
I'm going with it. Okay.
Follow the path.
And as I digress, go.
So, because what we started to talk about in a previous episode was a kind of gut health.
Yes.
Which I love talking about. I've got a video on, it's on Dr. Sophie GP YouTube channel, because I've got 2 YouTube channels, but it is on that one. And when I did all the research for that, I was just totally wowed.
It's like your second brain, isn't it, you got?
Yeah. I mean, it's like an organ that we've kind of just discovered that it's not your gut, but your gut microbiome, and how important it is for everything. And I think I talked about in the episode before how I make my kids eat to feed their gut microbiome. Yes. Bob, Ted, and Mary.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
So anyway, I thought it's worth talking a bit about that.
Yeah.
And because the evidence shows that your gut, we have what's called a gut-brain axis. So your gut microbiome definitely affects your brain and your mental health.
Well, so actually when you do a gut cleanse, like everything upgrades, and you see, when I say upgrades, like literally you get more clarity, more focus, you lose weight, the inflammation goes down.
What's a gut cleanse?
I'm going to do a gut cleanse.
What's a gut cleanse?
So it's essentially where you detox your body, you cleanse. I don't really know. I know I'm going to do one though.
Well, people do like colonic and stuff.
Yeah, so it's
but that actually destroys your
so it's
your
like,
microbiome. So don't do that. I know people do it and they think that that's kind of cleansing.
Yeah.
Detoxing. The idea of we have these toxins on our body. Our liver is an amazing detoxifier, and our kidneys do for the fluids. But I would be generally cautious about the idea of the cleanse. The cleanse, unless you are doing like, I'm going to be super healthy and eat loads of fruit and veg for the next 2 weeks and drink loads of water and not drink alcohol, that kind of thing could detox.
Yes, it is. So the lady actually I did my naturopath course with, she's called Naturopathic Kathy. She does the gut cleanse. But I've had loads of people who've gone through it, like friends, and they look like they look incredible, like they feel incredible. I do want to try it. But again,
well, just be careful that you're not doing something like colonic, which actually washes away your gut bacteria.
Okay, how come?
Because your whole bowel is lined with the gut bacteria. It's a bit the same reason like you shouldn't actually, like when you're washing down below for us women, you shouldn't actually you should be careful not to push any water inside your vagina, because your vagina also has its kind of microbiome. And the reason women get thrush sometimes, especially if getting recurrent thrush or BV, bacterial vaginosis, is they're washing it and they're washing away the good stuff, which allows all the bad bacteria and the too much yeast and things, because normally there's a homeostasis, there's a balance. And when you wash away the good stuff, all the bad stuff just becomes too much. So your body's very good at finding this balance.
Do you know what it comes to me, and it's kind of related, but it's totally unrelated, and no one talks about this. But I've actually had to do my own colonic when I got postpartum constipation.
Oh, postpartum constipation is horrible.
I'd never had it before until having Dudley, and I genuinely believed I was going to die on the toilet. I had to call my sister. I was like, you need to get me some laxatives. It was the worst.
And then you think, my uterus is going to fall out because I'm straining.
Oh my God, I literally felt like my whole vagina. I thought it was going to, sorry Paul if you listen to this, but like literally, and Alex like you don't want to tell your partner you're constipated to bugger it. He'd gone to work and I'm thinking, I'm going to die on this toilet. It was, and my friend Sophie, she also, it was horrific.
Yeah, my tip actually for especially first time mums is don't forget about the constipation. So when I was, because I was aware of it, and when I was having Betsy, I remember like eating prunes whilst kind of like in between pushes. Pass me a prune.
It was awful. Honestly, I feel like it's actually traumatized me still. But anyway, go back to the gut cleanse. Not the gut cleanse, the
gut brain axis. So what I would suggest, so essentially it can affect like the neurotransmitters in your brain, which we know are important for your kind of mental well-being. So do you know the difference between probiotics and prebiotics?
So prebiotics, is that what you take as a preventative to make sure that everything is healthy? No, I don't know the difference. I have no idea. I'm trying to sound really clever.
So the probiotics are like the live bacteria that you can have. Yeah. So that's your kind of fermented foods, your kefir, kombucha, all that stuff. So when if you look at our live yogurts, if it says like billions of bacteria. So all that stuff is the live bacteria that actually you can consume to help.
And what does that do then? So I've literally just started to get into kefir, and actually I don't drink cow's milk, but I do drink the cow's milk version of that.
Even people who are lactose intolerant, often the lactose has been digested by the bacteria. So is it
baked?
No.
So I had one the other day and it was a kefir, but it was baked.
Fermented.
Oh, or maybe they just called it baked then.
Yeah, I don't know about baked. Because actually they would diet. So if you, for example, put it in, if you cook with it, it will kill off the bacteria.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I for a while was making my own kefir. But it did taste pretty gross, so now I do buy it.
Yeah, I feel like I need the
ingredients. I do have it on my porridge every day.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and I do love, I like sauerkraut, kimchi, things like that. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like you need to put these down like in the description.
Yeah, and there is studies that show that people who have an increased amount of probiotics do have a reduced amount of depression and anxiety. Whether or not that's kind of causation, I don't know, but I think there's loads of evidence going on at the moment, and it certainly feels like it could be that way.
Yeah, I think
so. And then prebiotics is the food you eat that feeds your microbiome. So when I'm feeding Bob, Ted and Mary, as I said.
So it's like your broccolis and your...
So it's fibre that essentially we can't digest, but it feeds them.
Yeah.
So it's whole grains, it's your fruit and veg, nuts and seeds and herbs and spices. So people often forget about herbs and spices. So when you're cooking, it's really good.
Like oregano?
Yeah, all
Basil.
sorts of... In fact, if you can kind of mix it up, because they'll all be different. Yeah. So what your gut loves, your gut bacteria, is variety. So even if you're healthy, but you pretty much have the same thing every day, that's less good, because essentially different sorts of bacteria and yeast and things will grow based on different types of food that you're feeding them. And so the more kind of fibre you're eating, this produces short chain fatty acids, and this can influence the brain health too.
That makes total sense though, because everything is connected. So it actually makes total sense. And also when you're eating, it's still going into every cell of the body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. Whew, I thought I got that.
Well, I mean, it's obviously digested and then the body decides what to do with it. But I always think it's amazing how when I start thinking about the gut-brain axis, you think, God, of course, because whenever we felt nervous, we talk about having kind of butterflies in your tummy and stuff. Yeah. And that literally is, and you suddenly like need the loo before an exam and stuff. Yeah. And that's because you have this gut-brain axis.
I always have
You're
a nervous
worried
wee.
in your brain, and that is affecting
in your body.
And obviously we know with IBS as well, that's something that, irritable bowel syndrome.
Oh God, what do we know with that? I feel like...
So that is actually an oversensitivity to foodstuffs from the bowel.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to go to it from a different perspective. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So, but the more people are stressed and anxious, the more their IBS symptoms flare up.
Yeah.
And the difficulty with IBS is to try and help control it, you have to remove certain foods. There's a thing called a FODMAP diet. But a lot of the FODMAP stuff that you have to remove is really good for your gut microbiome.
Can I ask you a question about tolerance? So obviously they suggest that you eat food to build for tolerance to it, but essentially, is this relevant? I don't know if it's relevant.
I don't know what you mean by food to build a tolerance.
So like, say for example, like there's certain foods that aren't good for your body because it inflames. Oh, what am I going? I don't know where I'm going with this. I just had this question pop into my head, like I felt like I needed to ask. So when we, so say for example, a lot of people are like, when we're younger, we might have been intolerant to cheese, but then we eat cheese to build up the intolerance. But sometimes can we eat a food that will build to an intolerance, but actually it's just creating inflammation? Does that make sense?
Well, certain foods we might have sensitivities or allergies to. And if you avoid them, for example, now, it used to be that pregnant women should avoid nuts, for example.
Yeah.
And actually what we know now is you shouldn't avoid nuts.
Yeah.
Pregnant women should eat nuts, unless they've obviously got an allergy. And then when you are weaning, you should try and introduce small amounts of nuts early as you can.
Yeah.
So that actually introduction of that food stuff, which could have caused an allergy or sensitivity, won't, because maybe your body's already builds an ability to manage it.
Yeah.
And there are foods that are pro-inflammatory. So certain foods are going to make things worse. And people talk about an anti-inflammatory diet.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that a bit too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to also mention.
Go on.
So there's this kind of idea now, thinking about gut health, of psychobiotics, which is they're trying to formulate, instead of using, for example, traditional antidepressant medications like we use SSRIs, that they're trying to produce these psychobiotic based on kind of your gut microbiome to try and help with depression, anxiety.
Wow.
So that's certain interesting, because there's certain different strains
it's
affecting
gone over my head like this. I'm like, wow.
It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is definitely interesting, and we should all be thinking about feeding our gut microbiome.
Yeah. What sort of kefir? Do you pronounce it kefir?
Yeah. Well, I do.
What kefir would you recommend? Like what? Because I buy one from the local Lepton shop. I'm like, it's an organic shop. I'm going to buy this. That's great.
I don't know. I mean, have a look. You can get all sorts now, flavoured ones, all sorts. As long as it's got billions of different sorts of bacteria.
In
lactobacillus, bifidobacteria, then that's going to be good. Or you can make your own.
How do you make your own?
So you have to get.
By the way, can I just say how many of you are currently Googling how to make kefir? I know you're doing this. I know you're Googling it.
You have to get a starter. So it's a bit like when you're making bread, because it's like the yeast. You have to have a starter, and then you feed it all the time. You feed it little bits.
Oh my God. Okay. So it's literally like...
It's like a live thing you're looking after.
Bacteria.
It's a bit like having, what is that computer game? We used to have that pet. You used to have to feed it and keep it alive.
Was it not a Furby, a Tamagotchi?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I'd be like, shit, I've not fed the bloody kefir.
Oh my God. So hang on. I feel like you need to just... This is blowing my mind a little bit. So how do you start the kefir?
You have to... So
is it called kefir that you buy?
I can't actually remember what it's called, the thing. But it's like... It's a bit like when you're making, so if you make sourdough, it's the same thing. You have the starter, and you have to keep feeding that, same thing.
And so
that's how sourdough, same. And that's why sourdough's actually good for you too.
Yeah, I believe that. So I still feel like I need you to expand on this. So this is, I'm imagining.
I haven't done it for a couple of years.
But when you start feeding it, then is it kind of like what is it, like a cheesy consistent, like a feta cheese, or is it like a liquid consistency?
It's like a thick yogurt.
And then what would you do? So do you start feeding it, and then you just take every day from it, and then you keep adding to it? So it's just like an ongoing growing thing.
So it's very
oh my God. So it's like a person, is it? It's like a person that grows, and then you take a little bit of skin off it, like that.
And then you know that it's going to be good, really good quality to it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and, I think we should.
It just tasted a bit like, ugh. I
Could
really
you add
wanted
like,
to love it. I was like, what do you think, guys? And everyone was like,
Could you add like maple syrup to it or like a honey to it?
absolutely.
Did you try
yeah,
that?
I was like, let's have it. Strawberries, yeah.
And did it taste different when you added anything
But
to
then
it?
essentially what I think I went on holiday and it died. And sorry.
That makes me feel quite
Oh,
sad.
you feel
Yeah.
sorry?
Yeah, I feel like.
And then I bought some supermarket stuff and I was like, oh, this tastes so much better.
Yeah, because it's funny actually because I don't drink milk. I didn't think I'd like it, and then this girl that I follow on Insta, I was like, oh, I love her, and she's had this kefir, and I was like, I'm gonna buy it and try it, and I was like, wow, this is great. It felt like I was giving like my tummy a hug from the inside.
They do say don't have, because you can buy like the drinks and stuff, but if
man,
you've
what's
not
the
had
drink?
any, don't go too crazy. Just introduce it gradually.
Well, I think I did go crazy. Like it was like
that might make you.
Yeah, it was like a
on the
500
toilet a
ml
bit too much.
bottle, but I drank the whole thing, and then I realised that you're only supposed to have like maybe a third of it every day or something. I was like, oh, whoopsie.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely an excellent thing to introduce into your diet if you're not already.
We should do like a 30-day kefir challenge, shouldn't we? Oh my God, let's do it.
You should set up our own kefir brand.
Yes, I like it.
Okay, cool. So that is one thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to talk about was omega-3 fatty acids. Do you know much about that?
So that's the fish oil, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I need to start taking omega-3. I don't take it. Oh, I saw that then. If
Did
anyone
you?
Is,
You're
if anyone
so good at reading my face.
Yeah, if anyone is watching on YouTube, when I said I should really start taking it, Sophie's hand stopped stroking the dog. And then she realised it had stopped stroking the dog in utter shock. And then she carried on. Go and talk to me. Yeah, I know. The thing is that when you know you need to be doing stuff and you don't do it, that's where, especially when I think I self-sabotage my health sometimes.
Yeah, well, I don't take any supplements. Because, well, all the evidence also shows that if you can, any of these things, you're better off getting in your diet. So you can take a probiotic supplement, things like that. But if you can have the probiotics through your diet, that's much better because you get the whole food. And our body does digest food different to supplements.
So with this though, but if we look at, so our vegetables get the nutrients from the soil, right? But our soil is quite, it's not dense with neutrals anymore because of everything that goes into it.
That is true, especially magnesium. So in fact, I was going to supplement anything, I definitely would take magnesium. And it can help you sleep. So if you take it at night, it's quite good. But I do I have poppy seeds and things like that on my porridge for magnesium. So I just try and always have it in the food source rather than.
Oh, I get you. Sorry, I get you. Yeah. So rather than, I do.
So
get
yes, you do need to kind of maybe add in and think about things like that. Because, well, actually, and I also add chia seeds and flax seeds to my porridge.
I like
which are an excellent source of omega-3. And walnuts are good if you like walnuts, just snacking on them. So there are ways you can do it without.
So do you know what I do? So to keep myself hydrated, I usually put some water with a lemon in and chia seeds. It's amazing. It's like you're drinking.
Because they kind of they get bigger, don't they?
It's like, to be fair, it's like you're drinking frog spawn, but I quite like it. It's like it's a nice.
I think it can be. It's used as like a vegan alternative to things where you
I
soak
don't know that.
the chia seeds and they kind of get bigger, and you can use. I think maybe instead of egg.
You could do it. You could do the chia. So usually put chia seeds on overnight oats, don't they? And they mix them in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'd put them on my porridge.
Oh, nice.
And you know what? You can buy loads of expensive stuff. I get mine from Aldi. And Aldi do a brilliant selection of all this stuff. Yeah. And sometimes I just put it all in a big mason jar.
Oh, then you can
just mix it around.
Yeah.
And then add scoops of it on.
It's funny because I'm like,
cheap.
I'm the consumer dream. I follow people and I'm like, okay, yeah, this looks like that and that. I buy into so much stuff.
Well, like the Zoe, who do the CGM monitors, they've brought out some sort of gut shot or something that I can't remember what they call it. And it's like £30 a month or something. And it's essentially a tiny amount of these things that you can just buy and mix together.
Well, was it me and you that were talking about the Zoe thing? I can't get on board with it. Like, I think...
You don't need to.
No, and even then I think it's... I think it was me and you that were talking because it gives you...
we mentioned it on the podcast, I think.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah. I think it... I don't need to go on because we've already gone over it. We've already covered it.
Well, I can't... Yeah, I think we might have touched on it. It's, from my point of view, the evidence isn't there yet to suggest there's any reason why. And I am against the idea of promoting fear with food.
Yes.
Which I think is what it does.
Yeah, because
oh my gosh, my blood sugar spiked. Ugh. I mean, as long as you haven't got diabetes and as long as that blood sugar is coming back down again, then it doesn't matter. Overall, we should be looking at having a healthful diet, which is, and then you don't need to, I think some people love to track, but I think it often causes anxiety, tracking everything. Nowadays, just because we can track something, you can get an Oura ring, you can have, I've got my Apple Watch, you can track everything, but it doesn't mean you necessarily should, or if people find it helpful, if it makes a difference to their life, then cool. See, but I'd just be like, just make sure it's not making you more anxious.
Yeah, so I went through a stage where literally I would buy absolutely everything organic, everything clean. to a point where it would stress me out. Whereas now I eat like 80-20. So I always give way for that 20% of, okay, if I can't get this, it's a great substitute. But it took me to a state where literally I'd be feeling so stressed. I'm like, we can't eat that. You can't drink that. You can't. And I was so kind of like, with everything, it's everything in moderation, isn't it? In the sense, and if you have if you have a whole diet where you're eating whole foods, you're always gonna be healthy, really, in the sense of if you're not eating loads of processed foods, loads of junk food, like that's the stuff that literally creates disease in the body. There's been the thing recently about Prime. In America, the people are taking Prime to court because it's been shown to have chemicals in which are carcinogens, but really kind of I can't think what the chemical is. It's not a great chemical. It's I'll come back to you on that one.
No, exactly. All those kind of energy drinks and things I worry a lot about.
Right, yeah. What's your view on coffee? Because I'm a coffee whore.
Good.
Okay, I am a coffee whore.
Do you know, there's loads of benefits. It's full of polyphenols.
Yeah.
Which is an antioxidant, and actually caffeine is good for you in many ways as well. But I just do say to people after lunch, try and knock it on the head, because it has a quarter life for 12 hours, which means 12 hours later, it's still like making yourself a quarter of a cup of coffee. So if you have one at, for example, 6 p.m, all night long, that caffeine is still in your system. And even if you think you're sleeping well, you won't get that deep sleep as much. So try and move to decaf or alternative drinks. But health, there's lots of health benefits to tea and coffee, which I'm loving because I love tea.
Yeah.
I'm like a proper Yorkshire girl. Give me tea. Yeah. When I've just come back from the States and I was like, can I have a hot tea? They're like, no, what are you talking about? But yeah, so and red wine, polyphenols, and dark chocolate.
I do like a dark chocolate. I make my own chocolate.
I mean, enjoy moderation, but there's definitely some health benefits to them. And generally, antioxidants, that's another good reason why spices are good. They often contain antioxidants and certain types of fruit and veg as well. So an antioxidant is something because there are something called free radicals in our body which can cause cellular damage. So antioxidants are quite good at kind of cleaning them up, and that can decrease inflammation. And
so actually talking about antioxidants, so cacao, which I'm a massive lover of, and I'm actually launching my own cacao brand with my friend.
Tell us about your cacao brand.
Shameless plug, hashtag. So me and my friend, we're launching our own brand of cacao, which is amazing, called Amorosa. And it started mainly for sort of like the spiritual benefits of it opens up the heart chakra, helps you to connect to something greater than what we are. It's amazing. It tastes delicious, but also it's full of antioxidants. And again, if you've been listening over the episodes, you'll know I'm great with stories, crap with facts. But if you have a high dosage or like a 50-gram dosage of cacao a day, it actually increases your stem cell oh my God, what's the word I'm looking
regeneration?
for? Thank you, regeneration. Yeah. It's super good for you, but it's high in iron. I'm getting everything wrong here. It's high in iron, oh my God, my brain has gone to mush. It's because you're so knowledgeable on all the food stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God,
I have notes.
I don't even know what I'm saying. But anyway, it's coming out. But do you know what's really interesting? To say it's solid, like it's from the cacao bean, because it's got no crap in it. It's pure cacao, and the only process it's been through is literally to melt it down to make the block. When you drink it, I actually feel great. Like it's like my granny's giving me a hug.
I think it's amazing actually, because it is something that does really taste delicious.
Yeah.
It feels like having hot chocolate, and you're like, oh, this is really good for me too. And when you were like, don't come around for cacao ceremony before we do our breathwork, I was like, what's that? But yes, I don't know what it is, but I'm in.
I love it though. Honestly, I feel, so from a spiritual perspective as well, like the energy of cacao, you're working with a great grandmother spirit. And when you work with her, she'll bring things up. But I felt called to have a cup of cacao every single day. It was probably a good few months ago now, but I felt literally like she was bringing, I'm going to say I'm talking about the spirit of cacao. I felt like she was bringing grief up. Like it was a really, like a really soft, gentle process, but it felt like all this grief was coming up to leave my body. Again, there's no science behind that, but from an experience perspective, and I think this is what's made me want to bring it out. I like bring our own brand out.
Well, it's probably got polyphenols in as well.
I think it has, yeah. I'm pretty sure it has actually.
Okay, anyone who's watching on YouTube, you might notice that things have moved. That's because we just had to do a little edit with the children coming back in.
She's joking, her magic has come back.
Magic. So See, when you have many children like you do, you just have to work around them. School holidays.
Totally.
So the other thing I just wanted to mention was generally a really interesting study that was done. I think she was a psychiatrist, and it's called the SMILES trial. And it looked at giving people a Mediterranean diet. And it was a really well done study. And so there was a control. And essentially the non-control group got the plant foods, whole grains, lean protein. They had a reduced amount of sugary foods and ultra-processed foods.
Ultra-processed foods?
So reduced ultra-processed.
Oh, reduced.
So essentially just like a really, like your ideal
just like
kind of diet.
Right, okay.
And after 12 weeks, in terms of their depression levels, a third of them had improved compared to only 8% in the control group. So just from 12 weeks, and apparently even from 3 weeks, people were noticing a difference in their depression.
So this is the people who are on the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah. So people on the Mediterranean diet,
sense though.
like a third of them, their mood improved after only 12 weeks. Their depression like lifted. But it did also show, like I was saying, that actually the whole foods is kind of considered to be better than the supplements, because you within your body digests the whole thing, which includes the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, and the way it's digested is different. So, so there is really good evidence that certainly from a kind of, well, for many reasons, but from a mental health point of view. The difficulty I know is that often when people, because I do talk about this with my patients, and they're like, the last thing you want to think about when you're depressed is trying to eat what you can. But
also kind of like, I think as well, a lot of people think that eating healthy, well, this thing, right? So when you eat healthy, you're on a diet or you're eating healthy, whereas actually that's how we actually should eat.
Yes,
that's not eating healthy. That's the diet. And like, if you look back only sort of 60 years or even 50 years, actually, you'd go into a supermarket and it would be mostly no, actually, now I'm a bit older, I'm 37 now. Let's go back about 60, 70 years. You'd go into a supermarket and a lot of it would be whole foods, whereas now you go in, there's only 5% of the supermarket that's whole foods. And apparently it's because supermarkets make such low margins that they have to have lots of things there to make a profit. But to me, like, it makes total sense when you're eating food that's been plucked from the ground, live food, you feel alive. Whereas when you're eating food that's gone through multiple processes, that's got chemicals in, your body is not conditioned to filter those chemicals. And then we have daily stresses, we have everything.
Well, there's been so much research at the moment into ultra-processed food, because we don't yet know what it is about ultra-processed food that is bad.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned chemical, obviously everything is a chemical, but so we don't know whether it's the processing itself, is it some of the ingredients? Actually, it may be that a lot of it is what we call hyperpalatable. So you can there was a really interesting study done for ultra-processed food by Kevin Hall, where it was a metabolic ward study, which means that people are they could not eat anything else. They stayed on this ward and were fed the food. So that this is like a very well-controlled study.
Yeah.
And they fed them an ultra-processed diet versus a non-ultra-processed diet, and they switched them and they measured things. And the people on the ultra-processed diet ate on average 300 more calories a day. They were allowed to just eat how much ever they wanted.
Yeah.
And they think, and so people have been really interested in that, looking at it. We think probably one of the reasons is it's very soft. So it's just kind of easy just to like shovel in your mouth. If you think of like a chicken nugget and fries, kind of almost melts in your mouth. You just eat it. Whereas if you were to have like, I guess traditional like meat, veg, there's more chewing going on. There's more busyness that's going to take longer to digest. So what I do say is also, because we do eat ultra-processed food. I've got kids, I'm busy. Sometimes I'm going to be like, here's some, fish fingers and chips. I'm going to feed them that sometimes. And I don't feel too bad about it.
See, I'm the total opposite. I'm like, we're not having that. Well, every time, and honestly, I'm definitely going to get cancelled here. People are going to be like, I do not like that, Jess. But no, I get really anal about what the kids eat, and I get really sort of... we do have midnight feast, but honestly, sometimes like Hattie will come back from the shop, and do you know those sweets which are like puree numbers? I'm like, what? No, they're going straight in the bin. Or even kind of we don't really eat processed food, in the sense of we might have like the odd pizza in the fridge, but we do eat chocolate. We have chocolate and ice cream, but generally like everything is cooked from. I'm totally anal now. I'm totally, but I think
that's great. I mean, I guess that's the ideal.
Yeah.
So when I can, that's what I do. But what I would
say,
you're
a great cook. Can I just say, Sophie? We came around to a house. What was it? The heaters, they were amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But what I would say to people is, so for example, what I do is, even if we, for example, get a takeaway curry, I will chuck extra chickpeas in there or extra veg. So try and think of every meal you're having, half of it be veg and pulses.
Yeah.
And I use loads of frozen veg. So it doesn't necessarily have to be fresh and expensive. And you know, sometimes
apparently, do you know what? So this is one thing I read. And again, I don't know if this is real or not, but apparently frozen food, because it's plucked straight out of the ground and then it's frozen, it holds the nutrients for longer.
Yeah, that's true. Because by the time it's been shipped over from wherever, and it might have, the vitamins may have degraded. So that is true. Actually better for you probably. So, and also try and think, so if you're having ultra processed food that might be soft, try and think about adding some, like having nuts with it or having some raw carrot with it, so that you kind of mixing it up. So for example, if I'm going to give my kids fish fingers and chips, I will give them raw carrot.
Yeah.
So that they're kind of getting that kind of,
That
and
sort of
also some
stuff.
sort of veg as well.
Yeah.
But if you can ideally
My kids
half
hate me,
of
by
your,
the way. They're like, what's this again? I'm like, you're going to eat it. Which is probably causing them more psychological trauma than them actually just eating fish and chips.
well, I guess, I don't know. I was brought up on eating whatever I wanted. I was born in 1980, so as well. And my mum worked full time. She probably hates now because she's an amazing cook these days. And so therefore I think, oh, well, I was able to eat whatever I wanted, but now I choose to eat healthy because I don't want it to be a hang-up thing.
Yeah. Do you know what's really interesting, right? So again, I'm going to bring it back to the belief system or like the trauma system. So since doing the inner healing, right, I've noticed that I can't eat certain foods in the sense of, so before, like a few years ago, I'd definitely be partial to a Mackie D's, right? And like the kids as well, like this is only in recent years, I would say over the past 4 or 5 years, where I've become totally anal about it. But even now, like the thought of having certain foods, I'm like, oh, I've just got a different relationship with my body in the sense of, I can't describe it, like just certain things. Like now I've not had a McDonald's for probably about 4 years, and I know our kids, they're going through the pot noodle and super noodle phase, aren't they, where literally like, Mom, I've got pot noodles. I'm like, great, enjoy, don't let me ever see you eat that. But just when I've started to heal parts of me, like my diet has just changed, and it's not been a conscious effort. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's just kind of a deep love and respect for the stuff I put in my body. Although saying that, I am partial to some cocktails, vino and shampoos. So
Yeah, me too.
it's a bit of the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. You've got to find a balance. And actually, I think what I've done as I've got older is thought about how I feel after I've eaten something.
Yes.
Acknowledge how that makes you feel, because you might be kind of eating fish and chips or whatever and enjoying it at the time, it tastes nice, but how does it make you feel afterwards? I think if you're honest with yourself, you probably feel a bit sluggish. You might feel like a bit bloated. So whereas if you have something that you know is kind of good for you, you end up feeling better afterwards.
And also, actually, you just made me think of something. So generally as well, when we reach for the biscuits or we reach for the crisp, we reach for something that's not good for our body, we all know it's not great for our body. But when we reach for it, it's generally because something has triggered us to then reach for the comfort. So a lot of food is attached to love. A lot of food is attached to guilt, is attached to shame. So if anyone's listening to this, there's actually, do you want me to share a little technique that I teach some of my clients? Let's hear it, yeah. So I used to do this all the time, right? So again, before I started Belief Code, well, actually it was about 3 years ago, I'd go through a stage where I'd literally just, one day I'd just eat everything that was in my sight. So I'd open the cupboards, I'd see biscuits, I'd scoff them, see crisps, I'd open the fridge, there'd be like a tray of vanilla slices, they'd all be in my belly. And I was like, right, why am I doing this? Anyway, it worked out, it stemmed from grief, etc., etc. So I introduced this technique, and anyone can do this. If you find that you have, do you know, like a guilty pleasure, or like something you go to, so you might, think you're going to have one biscuit, but then you end up eating the pack of biscuits with your cup of tea. That's a habit, and a habit of self-sabotage, or a habit that we're in, which is a negative cycle. So what you can do is, if you can acknowledge what the negative cycle is, so in that case, it would be eating the full pack of biscuits rather than having one. You've got to do what we call a pattern interrupt. So as you go for the pack of biscuits, what is the new action that you'd like? The new action would be to put the biscuits down and maybe to have a stick of celery or a carrot or whatever it is. And then you've got to attach a benefit to that new action. So for example, this is what it would look like. If I'm going to go and reach for the biscuits, I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. How am I going to feel after? I'm going to feel crap. What do I want to replace it with? Celery. Why am I going to eat the celery? Because it's going to make me feel good and I'm going to feel healthy in my body. And if you go through that conscious, rational process, you won't eat the biscuits.
Yeah, because so much of it is mindless eating.
Yeah, mindless eating.
Especially these days, because we're looking at our phones whilst we're eating, we're watching telly whilst we're eating. So yeah.
And also, do you know, just by looking at our phones, so if you watch on the YouTube, you'll see this, but a lot of people are starting to get this here, because we're always like that. So I've started to be like this now. I'm like if you can't see on the podcast, I'm currently looking up at the phone. Because you'll notice it. Like if you look, you will start to notice that a lot of people are starting to just
hunched over as well.
Yeah, but just like little hunchy guts like this. Anyway.
We don't have any double chins here.
And like this. Get the arm out.
All right, cool. So we've gone from pretty deep, pretty quick
to double chins,
to ending on double chins. Yay! All right. Oh gosh, I was thinking I haven't even talked about like protein and fiber and everything, but actually we did talk about that.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to our podcast about kind of weight loss, wasn't it? Then that kind of ties in with a lot of what we talked about today.
Also as well, I feel like Soph needs to do a shameless plug here. So Soph is a lifestyle and tell me about your coaching.
Well, yes, I've been doing lots of training for a long time. I've been meaning to get it going. Life gets in the way, but I love coaching actually, and specifically working with menopause coaching at the moment, kind of optimizing your health, menopause and beyond. But yeah, there might be more coming in the future.
Hang on, right? So I'm going to plug Sophie. So basically, if you like Sophie and you want to work with her, there are details below. There.
Thanks, Jess. And if you want to buy cacao, then
yeah, thanks, Sophie. Yeah. Pay you later.
But let us know, what did you think about this? I'd love to get into the comments. What do you think? Is food medicine or not? Or what other, is there anything we haven't talked about that you think we should have talked about in terms of kind of food and whether or not it can heal your body? Or any other topics you want us to cover in the future? Let us know in the YouTube comments or on Instagram. Give us a shout.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.